Before we will begin the ceremony with a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the province of Newfoundland and Labrador as the ancestral homelands of many diverse populations of Indigenous people who have contributed to 9,000 years of history, including the Pacific on the island of Newfoundland. Today, this province is home to diverse populations of Indigenous and other people. We also acknowledge, with respect, the diverse histories and cultures of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit.
Thank you very much. Bonjour à tous. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. Nous sommes très fiers de vous accueillir à cette conférence de presse. Voici comment l'événement va se dérouler. We'll begin with opening statements from each premier. This will be followed by the historical signing of documents. Then we'll move to a Q&A session with members of the press, and we'll have a photo session at the very end. And now, I'd like to invite to speak the Honorable Dr. Andrew Furey, Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Welcome, Grand Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. I've always been fascinated by the history of Newfoundland and Labrador, this beautiful home of ours. Its many reinventions, victories and losses, booms, busts, and booms again. That's why when a moment like this comes along, I certainly feel the weight of the responsibility to get it right. My friends, I am humbled to deliver some extraordinary news with you all. Today, everything changes for Newfoundland and Labrador. Today, after more than 50 years of a lopsided agreement that has been such a contentious point for Newfoundland and Labrador, we finally have a new deal on the table for Churchill Falls with Quebec. We are ripping up the 1969 contract . Not in 2041 when it expires, but today. And together with Quebec, we are starting a new chapter. This deal comes after years of tough negotiations, digging in hard and demanding that our province finally see a bold, future-focused change, to finally see real benefits that will help overcome the shortcomings of the past. And while we can't change the past, we can use it as the opening lines of a bold new chapter of our province. And in this moment, change her future. With this agreement in place, we will have a generational impact on the growth and the prosperity of Newfoundland and Labrador. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge my friend, Premier François Legault, and his team for joining us here today. Premier Legault embraced the importance of getting this new agreement in place. Without his commitment to persevere and to change, with the recognition of the ills of the past, we would not be here. Today, as our province signs a memorandum of understanding on a new energy partnership, we mark a new working relationship, a new partnership with the province of Quebec. We are both partners who see the benefits of Churchill Falls and the river to our provinces and to Indigenous communities. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the Grand Chief of the Innu Nation and his team that are here with us today, and their people who have secured indeed a special relationship with the river through the New Dawn Agreement. A special thank you to our team as well, Carl Smith, Jennifer Williams, Dennis Mahoney, and Walter Parsons. And of course, Minister Parsons, who's here on stage, who's always been a great source of counsel, guidance, and friendship through all of this. The 1969 Upper Churchill contract is ending, and it is ending 17 years early. This new deal remedies the inadequacies of the old contract and cements a lucrative path, a fair path forward for Newfoundland and Labrador. It's also a deal that emphasizes our commitment to work with Indigenous communities to continue to build respectful relationships and continue to engage in this important initiative. So my friends, why now? Why 17 years early? The answer is that both provinces will benefit immediately through a new, strong, fair commercial deal. If in Newfoundland and Labrador we wait, we will see almost no revenue for yet another painful generation. Instead, now that void will be filled with our rightful value and our rightful opportunity. It will be replaced with an agreement for the Upper Churchill Power that will bring almost $200 billion of revenue to the province between now and 2075. Clap for that. You're going to clap. Clap for $200 billion. $200 billion new dollars. Every time I say that number, I have to pause and I have to smile. We all know what this money will mean to our province at this moment, and in fact, for years, no, for generations to come. Almost $200 billion. $200 billion has transformative power. It and this changes everything. Today, we all better understand the value of this resource, and we know that the demand for clean, renewable energy is set to rise. Our new agreement will use a price escalator model that allows the price we receive on our power to grow, a market-based block pricing that will unlock increasing and escalating revenues. No more fixed price, no more free power. It will also finally be governed by a fair and modern shareholders agreement with disputes to be resolved in neutral courts. It levels the playing field. If we have the courage to act now, we will see 17 years of extraordinary new benefits for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Benefits that will start immediately. This new deal will see $17 billion returned to the province between now and 2041, averaging $1 billion a year starting in 2025. But it remains a fair and just deal for both partners, and it is a good commercial relationship. But it will also see our revenues grow to $2 billion a year by 2044 and to almost $6 billion a year by 2060. My friends, we should not wait to act because this is our resource, it is our time, it is our moment. This agreement unlocks more than just the immediate value for this province. For years, Gull Island has been known to be one of the most attractive, undeveloped hydroelectric sites in North America. Well, now, today, that will change too. Through this agreement, Newfoundland and Labrador will be the majority owner, and Gull Island will be developed to produce over 2,000 megawatts of additional clean energy. In addition, we will work together to continue to expand Churchill Falls and build a new powerhouse adjacent to the existing facility while upgrading the existing units. Let me be clear. I will not allow our province to ever repeat the mistakes of previous mega projects. Hard lessons were learned from the 1969 contract, harder lessons still perhaps from recent mega projects that threatened to drown our province in debt. We have worked too hard for too long in order to correct these mistakes, to learn from them so as to not repeat them. We will make sure our province is protected against any future financial risk. Hydro-Quebec will bear full responsibility for construction risks on the new generation assets, including any cost overruns, and our province will benefit from thousands and thousands of new, real jobs. For the new developments, Hydro-Quebec will compensate Newfoundland and Labrador for the right to co-develop these assets to the tune of $3.5 billion. This amount covers Newfoundland and Labrador's equity requirements without needing our province to invest any of our own funds. The final component is addressing the transmission infrastructure. The Labrador line will be wholly owned by Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. In total, these new projects will almost double the generation capacity of the Churchill River, all to be sold at a fair, modern, and escalating price. Together, these construction projects are worth a combined capital investment of nearly $34 billion in Newfoundland and Labrador. Immediately, 4 new mega projects and tens of thousands of jobs for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. This new deal will also provide access to more power in the near term to increase the capacity of industrial development in our province. Power that will grow to 4 times the capacity we have now. This means the potential for new development in Labrador can and will become a reality. And, of course, with that means even more real, sustainable, new jobs for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. So yes, my friends, this changes everything. It changes everything for all those who stood where we now stand, for economic reconciliation with Indigenous communities, for the schools and hospitals it will build, for the doctors, nurses, and teachers we will hire, for the roads this can pave, for the debt relief this can provide, for the investments in our businesses and the economy this will bring, for the dreams that we never thought possible that are now within our reach, for every Newfoundlander and Labradorian who has wondered what a better deal for Churchill Falls would have looked like, and for every child and teenager out there across our province who will now only grow up with a positive reaction when they hear the words Churchill Falls. The sum total of this new agreement means not 1 billion or even 10 billion, but close to $250 billion to the provincial treasury over its lifespan. It changes everything for our province. It changes everything for the Innu Nation. It allows us to maximize the value of Churchill Falls, to turn on the potential of Gull Island, to attract new industries, to provide a generation of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians with work. We will bring this agreement to a special sitting of the House of Assembly in early January. But I am also asking everyone in our province to look at it as well. Analyze it, understand what's involved, what it means for this place of ours, for our home, for you, for your family, for your grandchildren, all the things it will generate for our future. This is our moment. It wears no political stripe. Its only agenda is to right a historic wrong. For those of us who know that 2041 may be beyond our vision, or perhaps even beyond our years, we now know our opportunity is well within reach and its benefits well within our control. We have shown the strength to persevere through 55 years of a bad deal, the fortitude to negotiate for our benefit, and now the courage to act. My friends, the Newfoundland and Labrador of tomorrow demands that of all of us. This new deal leaves behind the naivety and the short-sightedness of 1969. It doesn't wait to start at some far-off imaginary day. It is here. It is now. This changes everything. It changes everything for all of us in this room, but more importantly, for generations to come. Thank you, and God guard thee, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, Premier Furey. Et maintenant, j'aimerais inviter à prendre la parole le premier ministre du Québec, Monsieur François Legault.
Of course, first I want to greet my good friends, Premier Andrew Furey. I would like to greet also Alison and the family. It took us 4 years of discussion. We first developed a confidence relation. Sorry for my English, it's not perfect. We are a distinct society. Yeah. But I remember very well when you, Alice, and Andrew came at my home for supper. We had fun, and we start building something. And so for me, it's a great day also. I would like, of course, also to greet Minister of Industry, Mr. Parsons, President of Newfoundland and Labrador, Jennifer Williams. I would like to greet the Grand Chief of the Innu Nation. Je voudrais saluer notre ministre de l'Industrie et de l'Énergie, Christine Fréchette, Monsieur Aucoin d'Hydro-Québec. Of course, when we started discussing this Churchill Falls famous contracts, first I knew that Newfoundlanders were not very happy about Quebecers. When I came here a few times during those 4 years, and I noticed that. Will happen after 2041, because as you know, discussing with the indigenous people, preparing a project, building new dams, you can talk about 10, 12, 15 years. So 2041, it's tomorrow. So we need to know what will happen after 2041. And the other thing also is that we heard, and Andrew spoke to me about Gull Island. And if you consult any expert in North America, they will all tell you that it's the best project in North America. So I wanted to be part of it. Also, I know that, and we're working on the same in Quebec, that we can upgrade Churchill Falls. So there's a possibility to increase the capacity in Churchill Falls and get more electricity. And we all need more energy. By the way, I won't threat Donald not to send electricity. I'll switch to French if you want, because beaucoup de personnes au Québec, évidemment, sont au courant de cette entente là, qui a été signée en 1969. 1969 jusqu'en 2041. On voulait savoir au Québec, quand il vient le temps, par exemple, de signer des ententes à long terme avec des entreprises, qu'est-ce qui va arriver après 2041? Il y a même des Québécois qui étaient inquiets de dire qu'est-ce qui va arriver après 2041. On va avoir besoin d'électricité pour nos résidences. Et puis, on était au courant aussi de ces deux projets extraordinaires qui existaient ici au Labrador. Un, Gull Island, un projet au fil de l'eau, là, donc je ne rentrerai pas dans le détail parce que je ne connais pas vraiment ça, là, mais pas besoin de réservoir et ça permet d'avoir de l'électricité à un coût vraiment, vraiment très bas. Et puis, les possibilités, il y a comme deux projets, là, on les met ensemble, mais de rehausser les turbines qui sont dans Churchill Falls et aussi agrandir, ajouter à la centrale de Churchill Falls. Donc, on a beaucoup discuté depuis 4 ans, Andrew et moi, et je pense que ce qu'on s'est dit dès les premières rencontres, c'est faudrait bien que nos enfants, moi j'en ai 2, là, vous autres en avez 3, dans 50 ans, disent papa ou grand-papa, vous avez fait une bonne job, les deux. C'était vraiment un gagnant-gagnant, win-win, comme on dit en affaires. Donc, très fier d'annoncer aujourd'hui qu'on signe une entente de 50 ans entre le Québec et Terre-Neuve qui a 3 parties. 1, on renouvelle le contrat de Churchill Falls jusqu'en 2075. On agrandit Churchill Falls et on signe un contrat qui devrait aller de 2035 à 2085, donc un autre 50 ans. Puis on va fabriquer, on va construire une nouvelle centrale qui s'appelle Gull Island, puis il va y avoir un contrat de 2035 à 2085. Puis je suis fier de dire, oui, ça vient avec des risques, mais je pense avec les expériences, puis Andrew l'a expliqué tantôt, l'expertise d'Hydro-Québec pour construire puis agrandir ces centrales, je pense que ça va nous assurer, tout le monde, que ça soit gagnant-gagnant. So it's a win-win deal. Like Andrew said, the Newfoundlanders will get a better price starting not in 2041, starting in 2025. De notre côté, oui. De notre côté, d'abord, ça va permettre de sécuriser les Québécois jusqu'en 2075. Donc, quand on parle des prochaines générations, évidemment, je ne suis pas certain que je vais être là en 2075, mais disons que c'est important pour moi que vivront les prochaines générations. Ça nous assure aussi, là, puis bon, les gens d'Hydro-Québec, puis je sais que Michael est à Montréal pour expliquer tous les détails, mais on va être capable d'assurer notre promesse que les tarifs résidentiels au Québec n'augmentent pas de plus que 3 par année grâce à cette entente qu'on signe aujourd'hui. Donc, c'est important. Donc, au point de vue résidentiel, les Québécois vont continuer d'avoir les tarifs parmi les plus bas en Amérique du Nord. Évidemment, deuxièmement, on a ce défi planétaire de décarboner nos sociétés. Et on va évidemment utiliser une partie de cette électricité pour décarboner. Puis troisièmement, bien, on veut utiliser une partie de cette électricité pour avoir des entreprises québécoises qui développent de l'économie verte, ce qu'on doit faire dans l'avenir, être capable d'avoir des produits manufacturiers qui sont faits avec de l'électricité, avec l'énergie propre. Donc, au bout de la ligne, sort un produit qui est propre, qui peut entrer dans la fabrication d'un autre produit. Je pense, par exemple, à l'aluminium. Bien, c'est important d'avoir de l'aluminium vert, pas de l'aluminium gris de la Chine, l'aluminium vert de chez nous. Et bon, puis évidemment, quand on crée des emplois manufacturiers, on calcule qu'avec l'électricité qu'on va avoir additionnelle de Terre-Neuve, qu'on va pouvoir créer entre 4 000 et 8 000 emplois dans un deuxième temps pour les entreprises manufacturières au Québec, des emplois bien payés. On le sait, en moyenne, les emplois dans le secteur manufacturier sont payés 35 % de plus que la moyenne des salaires dans notre société. Il faut comprendre aussi qu'on est dans un contexte où toute la planète va de plus en plus chercher de l'énergie, surtout de l'énergie renouvelable. Je lis des analyses aux États-Unis où on dit d'ici 2050, il va falloir au moins doubler la capacité en énergie. Donc, on a la chance, Terre-Neuve et le Québec, de savoir comment construire des centrales. Donc, il faut en profiter. On serait fou de ne pas en profiter. C'est une opportunité extraordinaire qu'on a, les deux provinces, ensemble. Bon. Le contrat, parlons un peu de dollars et de cents. Le contrat qu'on signe aujourd'hui sur 50 ans représente un coût moyen de 6 cents pour le Québec par kilowatt-heure. Juste pour vous donner un ordre de grandeur, les autres projets de barrage au Québec qu'on a nous coûteraient entre 13 et 16 cents. Quand il y en a aussi qui nous parlent de nucléaire, bon, puis on n'est pas là-dedans, le coût pour le nucléaire, selon les experts, c'est autour de 17 cents le kilowattheure. Donc, je veux vous dire que c'est gagnant-gagnant. Andrew dit, je vais faire des profits de 200 milliards. Nous, on calcule que si on compare ce 6 cents à ce qu'on aurait payé pour des projets alternatifs, nous aussi, on va sauver 200 milliards. Donc, c'est gagnant-gagnant. 200 milliards pour Terre-Neuve, 200 milliards pour le Québec. Parlons maintenant de la capacité. Hydro-Québec, c'est 32 000 mégawatts. Sur les 32 000, 15 % venaient puis viennent de Terre-Neuve, donc 4 800 mégawatts. Avec l'agrandissement de Churchill Falls, puis avec Gull Island, on va augmenter ça de 50 %. Donc, le Québec va avoir accès à 2 400 mégawatts de plus. Donc, au total, 7 200 mégawatts. Donc, ça va devenir plus de 20 % de tous les mégawatts qu'on a chez Hydro-Québec. Donc, c'est vraiment une entente extraordinaire. Moi, ça fait 6 ans que je suis premier ministre du Québec. C'est de loin l'entente dont je suis le plus fier. Puis, ce que j'aime, c'est vrai qu'à court terme, on donne plus d'argent à Terre-Neuve. Mais quand on est en politique, il faut penser à long terme. Il faut penser aux prochaines générations. Puis moi, je suis fier de cette entente parce que ça va aider les prochaines générations. Il y a encore du travail à faire. Là, on a soupé ensemble hier soir, là, on essaie de se donner. Je ne pense pas qu'on va en parler publiquement, mais le plus vite possible, comme on dit en anglais, we would like to close the deal, hein, as soon as possible. Je sais qu'il y a une entente avec le Innu Nation pour Gull. Je sais qu'il reste du travail à faire, entre autres pour la ligne de transport, pas juste à Terre-Neuve, au Québec aussi. Puis moi, je veux rassurer tout le monde, on va écouter les différentes communautés autochtones qui sont impliquées. On veut bâtir des partenariats avec vous autres. C'est un engagement que je prends aujourd'hui. On va trouver le moyen que ça soit aussi gagnant-gagnant avec les nations autochtones. En terminant, je veux encore remercier Andrew pour ta vision, ton courage, ta patience. On se croise souvent au Centre Bell, même si Andrew est un fan des sénateurs. Ouais. But I know that his son is an Habs fan. Good for you. Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I think that the jersey of cold coffee is now in your room or something. Oh, yeah, yeah. Je veux juste répéter en anglais ce que j'ai dit tantôt. I want in 50 years that our grandchildren be happy about this deal. That's the target. That's the objective. Yeah. Je veux aussi remercier une personne qui était très patiente. Je ne sais pas qui est le plus dur à négocier, si c'est Andrew ou Michael Sabia, mais Michael Sabia, le président d'Hydro-Québec, est à Montréal actuellement. Il va faire des entrevues, puis il va répondre aux questions compliquées, là, quoique je vois qu'il y a beaucoup de journalistes du Québec qui sont ici. Mais, vous savez, Michael Sabia a été sous-ministre aux Finances à Ottawa. Il a été président de la Caisse de dépôt. C'est un homme qui s'est consacré au service pour l'État. Et je veux lui dire merci parce qu'il y a cru depuis le début. Il a été patient avec Andrew dans les dernières semaines. J'oserais nommer aussi mon directeur de cabinet, Martin Koskinen, qui a travaillé très fort dans les dernières semaines parce qu'il y a des jours où on se disait « ça n'arrivera pas, hein? Ça n'arrivera pas avant Noël », mais ça arrive avant Noël, donc c'est un beau cadeau. Donc c'est un beau jour pour le Québec, c'est un beau jour pour Terre-Neuve, c'est une journée historique pour les prochaines générations. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everybody.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Monsieur Legault. We will now proceed to the historical signing of documents by the premiers representing their commitment to this agreement in principle. Nous allons donc procéder à une signature de documents historiques par les premiers ministres qui représentent leur engagement envers cette entente de principe. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So now, Premier Furey will now join Innu Nation Grand Chief Simon Pokue at the table next to the stage to confirm Newfoundland and Labrador's commitment to the Innu of Labrador. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. We will now move to the Q&A session. Nous allons maintenant débuter la période des questions destinées aux membres des médias. There are many of you here today. Vous êtes nombreux aujourd'hui. Nous fonctionnerons ainsi. Each journalist will be allowed one question and one follow-up question. Chaque journaliste aura droit à une question et une sous-question. Please introduce yourself and the media you represent before asking. S'il vous plaît, veuillez vous identifier, les médias que vous représentez avant de poser votre question. The microphone is at the center, and I recognize Alain Laforêt from TVA.
Je n'ai pas besoin de me présenter. Thank you. Mr. Furey, last time you saw you in Quebec City, you said, "Show us the money." Do you have enough?
I think it's fair to say that $250 billion and tens of thousands of jobs is enough. It's a fair, but it is, more importantly, it is a fair deal for both parties. It's a good commercial deal that recognizes the ills of the past and creates a new path forward for Newfoundland and Labrador, while allowing Quebec some certainty moving forward. So, Premier Legault did show us the money.
C'était la facile.
OK.
Bonjour, M. Legault.
Bonjour.
Aucun premier ministre n'a accepté de rouvrir cette entente. Pourquoi le faire aujourd'hui?
Bien, pour plusieurs raisons. Un, pour sécuriser les besoins d'électricité après 2041, pour être capable de profiter d'une augmentation de 50 de capacité avec God Island puis l'agrandissement de Churchill Falls. Je pense que c'était important, là, compte tenu qu'il reste 16 ans, de savoir où on s'en va à partir de 2041. Puis au total, bien, d'avoir 7200 mégawatts en moyenne à 6 cents par kilowattheure. Bien, comme je le disais, là, c'est une économie de 200 milliards par rapport aux autres alternatives qu'on avait.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Ben Cleary, NTV. Premier Legault, you called the old Churchill Falls contract a bad deal for Newfoundland and Labrador. What would you call this one?
It's a win-win deal. 200 billion for Andrew, 200 billion for me. It's fair.
And Premier Furey, you mentioned a special sitting in the House of Assembly in January. Will this agreement be debated in the legislature?
I have said from day one, since becoming Premier, when there was discussions around this historic and generational opportunity, that this MOU would be debated in the House, and it will in a special sitting in early January. I think it's the rightful place for it to be debated. But as I said in my speech, we want everyone to consider it. It is win-win-win for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. If you consider where we started with an unfair old deal. This is the 1969 contract, and we are endeavoring to rip it out.
Oh, boy.
Next question. Next question.
Véronique Prince, Radio-Canada, bonjour. Monsieur Legault, est-ce que ça signifie qu'à court terme, on n'a pas besoin de construire de barrages au Québec?
Pas du tout. Vous m'avez entendu dire souvent qu'on veut doubler la capacité d'Hydro-Québec. Nos discussions avancent très bien, entre autres avec les CRI, pour rehausser la capacité de la Grande, des barrages à la baie James. Nos discussions avancent pour rehausser Mané-Coutarde. On continue un développement accéléré de l'éolien.
Petit Mécatina?
On est ouvert aussi à Petit Mécatina. Le dossier n'est pas fermé. Ce qu'on veut, c'est vraiment doubler la capacité d'Hydro-Québec. Puis moi, je pense que c'est le meilleur pari qu'on peut se faire pour les prochaines générations, d'avoir beaucoup d'électricité, de l'énergie renouvelable disponible au Québec.
Compte tenu de vos ambitions de transition énergétique, de la décarbonation qui s'en va en accroissant, vous pensez que cette entente de principe-là va permettre... Est-ce que vous avez chiffré, par exemple, le nombre de projets industriels au Québec ou le nombre de projets qu'on va pouvoir tirer de ça?
Bien, comme je le disais tantôt, on a identifié, évidemment, ça dépend de la taille des projets, mais que ça devrait créer entre 4 et 8 000 emplois dans le secteur manufacturier. Juste cette entente-là. Évidemment, si on signe avec les Cris, si on signe avec les Inuits, si on continue le développement de l'éolien, ça va être beaucoup plus que ça, là. Il y a une opportunité extraordinaire. On sécurise l'énergie à un bas coût pour le résidentiel, pour les Québécois. 2, on se donne une marge de manœuvre pour décarboner, même si Québec est premier en Amérique du Nord pour les GES par habitant. Puis, on se donne de la marge de manœuvre pour développer le secteur manufacturier au Québec dans l'économie verte, là, acier vert, aluminium vert, évidemment, la batterie pour les véhicules électriques et autres.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Heather Gillis with CBC News. Premier Furey, you spoke about the ills of former hydro projects. Will there be any independent oversight of these new developments or this new contract?
Well, certainly the new contract reflects an existing asset. There have been lessons learned. There's a full Blanc Commission report based on, and will give us guidance as we move to the next stage in development. So certainly that's something that we would entertain, and certainly something that we would enact with respect to new developments.
And this is a question for both premiers. Of course, Doug Ford in Ontario has threatened to stop selling power to the United States.
After today.
No, but he's threatened to stop selling power to the U.S. amid tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. Is that something either parties here will consider as well?
Well, I think the Premier and I both share significant concerns when it comes to the suggestion of tariffs, not, by the way, exclusively for the citizens of Newfoundland and Labrador or Quebec or Canada for that matter. These tariffs will have significant impact on families and macroeconomies on both sides of the border. We hope it is just bluster. We're preparing as if it is not. There will be no winners in a trade war. Certainly, from Newfoundland and Labrador's perspective, we have no interest in stopping the flow of oil and gas, our incredibly valuable and now well sought after world-class oil and gas to the United States. Nor do we now have any interest in stopping export of any electrons that could be produced in Labrador to the northeastern seaboard. I happened to have a call with the New England governors the other 2 or 3 nights ago, and there is a significant degree of concern on both sides of the border. And I think we need to bring it really down to a local level so that the president and decision makers on both sides understand that this could be incredibly punishing to not just the economy, but to the tables and the gas tanks and the electricity switches of every household across the northeastern seaboard.
Yeah, I had the chance to meet with Mr. Trump last weekend in Paris, and he told me very clearly that we can avoid those tariffs if we do what needs to be done with the borders. He doesn't want to see any more illegal immigrants coming from Canada to U.S. So I think the best choice right now for Mr. Trudeau is to table a plan with money, with a number of people to better secure the border. I think we have to do that. It's a lot better than getting 25% tariffs starting on January 21. So I prefer that than starting a war and stopping sending energy to United States.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Oui, bonjour, Tommy Chouy dans la presse. J'aimerais revenir sur l'évaluation faite, 200 milliards d'un côté, 200 milliards de l'autre. Je constate quand même une contradiction, ne serait-ce que sur l'effet de déchirer l'entente qui devait prendre fin jusqu'en 2041. D'un côté, au Québec, on nous dit le fait de payer plus cher l'électricité jusqu'en 2041, le coût de ça, ça va être 9 milliards. D'un autre côté, M. Furey vient juste de nous dire que ça représente 17 milliards. On va du simple au double. Premièrement, pourquoi y a-t-il une telle différence? Et quelle est la logique comptable derrière la décision de prendre ce pari-là et laisser de côté une entente qui était quand même reconnue béton par la Cour suprême jusqu'en 2041?
Bon, il faut être prudent quand on regarde les chiffres qui sont payés d'ici 2041, parce que le Québec détient 34 des actions dans Churchill Falls. Il y a aussi des montants qui sont des montants de capital qui sont payés dans le 17 pour Gull Island par le gouvernement du Québec, donc pour la construction de Gull Island. Mais je reviens sur ce que je disais. À partir de 2035, on va avoir plus d'électricité à cause de Gull Island et à cause du rehaussement de Churchill Falls à un bon prix. Puis après 2041, on va avoir plus d'électricité à un bon prix. Donc, de dire au total 7200 mégawatts en moyenne à 6 cents le kilowatt-heure, je ne connais pas personne qui aurait refusé un deal comme ça.
Très bien. Maintenant, on a vu une cérémonie de signature ici avec la nation Innu du Labrador. Je vais présumer que c'était bien au sujet du développement de Gull Island.
Oui.
Bon. Pourquoi n'y a-t-il pas eu, du côté du Québec, des consultations préalables avec les communautés autochtones pour avoir le même genre d'entente, puisque les lignes de transport nécessairement vont traverser leur terre ancestrale? Et dans quelle mesure est-ce que vous pouvez être confiant qu'on pourra y avoir une entente avec la communauté Innu, la nation Innu, pardon?
Oui. Bien, écoutez, quand on fait un barrage, la première chose qu'on s'assure, c'est qu'il y a une entente avec les communautés autochtones qui sont touchées. C'est ce qui a été fait pour Gull Island. Maintenant, les lignes de transmission, c'est un processus de discussion qui va avoir lieu autant parce qu'il y a une partie de la ligne qui va être Terre-Neuve, une partie du côté du Québec. Mais oui, j'ai confiance qu'on va trouver des solutions comme dans le passé.
Mais pourquoi ne pas avoir fait des consultations au préalable?
Bien, je pense que c'est important que les discussions se fassent sur les 3 projets et qu'il y ait aussi un accord sur la rivière qui va être touchée par Gull Island. Pour ce qui est des lignes de transmission, je ne dis pas que c'est moins important, mais on fait ça habituellement dans un deuxième temps, puis on va le faire correctement.
Puis,
Bien, il faut que les lignes passent quelque part, donc il peut y avoir différents trajets, mais j'anticipe pas de problème. Nos liens sont excellents là, avec les communautés autochtones actuellement. Puis on est en discussion, entre autres, nous autres aussi, avec les Inuits pour des gros projets. Puis je sais qu'il y a eu une réaction qui venait dans le sens de ce que vous disiez tantôt. Est-ce que parce qu'on signe avec Terre-Neuve aujourd'hui, on ne veut plus négocier avec les Inuits? Non, on veut les deux.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Daryl Roberts, CBC News. Premier, you mentioned sins of the past with previous hydroelectric projects. What do you say to people who hear about tens of billions of dollars being spent on new projects and feel worried?
So first of all, we're fully protected with respect to the new projects. It's financed against a cost-plus PPA, different than Muskrat. Not to get too technical, because I think that's the project you're referring to. The customer in the cost-plus was us. So as potential overruns occurred, we as a society were struggling with how we bear those costs. In this scenario, not only does Hydro-Quebec pay our equity portion for Gull Island, so no new cash from Newfoundland and Labrador, they assume the risks of all overruns because they are ultimately the customer. Now, they can choose to mitigate the rates like we have, or they can choose to bear it within the cost-plus PPA. So it is, we are financially secure in that respect. So it is very different than the first project in that it's not a fixed price, it is escalating, and it is very different than the other project in that it is secured differently. So while I can understand that there is still a trepidation given the previous mega projects, this is financed differently, it is protected differently, and at the end of the day, the next logical question you should have, well, if it goes over, will our equity ownership be diluted? It will never be diluted.
And the commission date for Gull Island just over 10 years away. What needs to happen to meet that date?
Sure. So first of all, the Premier and I had a great dinner last night in which we discussed our commitment to accelerate towards definitive agreements quickly, because it's necessarily in both parties' interests. By the way, that's a good sign that it is a good deal for both sides. Active, not just because of the capacity it can produce, but because of some of the permitting and some of the agreements that have already been in place. So while there is much work to do, we believe that with a partner in place, that we can move forward to meet those timelines. Now, anyone would be crazy to get up here and say to you with any project, renovating your bathroom or anything else, that you could say that it would come in on time. But that is the date that we are going to drive towards together.
Prochaine question.
Nicolas Lachange, Journal de Québec, Journal de Montréal. Vous avez souvent dit, M. Legault, que la transformation énergétique allait créer énormément d'emplois payants au Québec. Est-ce que ça ne vous fait pas un pincement de voir ces employés se créer ailleurs?
Non, parce que je suis confiant. D'abord, on a déjà annoncé, puis on va continuer d'annoncer bientôt, beaucoup de projets dans l'éolien. On est confiant de réaliser les projets pour rehausser les centrales de la Grande et de la Côte-Nord. Peut-être faire aussi Petit Mécatina. Donc, non, c'est plutôt le contraire. Là, Michael Sebia me dit « J'ai besoin de 35 000 employés de construction. Allez-vous être capable de former tout ce monde-là dans les prochaines années? » Non, il va en avoir pour tout le monde. Là, puis on veut les deux. Bon, dans le projet aussi, Hydro-Québec étant le gestionnaire, il va y avoir à peu près 400 personnes dans le design. Puis pour les lignes de transmission, il va en avoir un autre 700 à peu près. Donc là aussi, il y a des emplois. Mais là, déjà, là, il y a tout un défi de trouver assez de personnes dans la construction pour ce qui s'en vient, et dans le nord du Québec et sur la Côte-Nord.
Il y a quelques investissements au Québec en ce moment qui ont été un peu échaudés par des deals. On pense à Nordvolt, par exemple, qui fait un peu peur à la population au Québec. Vous avez parlé de risques aussi dans cette entente-là. Tout à l'heure, vous avez dit qu'il y a des risques, c'est certain. Quels sont ces risques?
Bien, il y a évidemment, là, on prend le risque sur le coût de construction de Gull Island, mais moi, j'ai confiance en l'expertise d'Hydro-Québec. Ce n'est pas la première fois qu'ils construisent des centrales. Je comprends que Michael est quelqu'un aussi de prudent, donc, comme on dit en bon québécois, il s'est pris des coussins un peu à gauche, à droite. Là, donc, je suis confiant que ces risques-là vont être relevés. Ouais.
Next question.
Courtney Zwicker with All Newfoundland and Labrador. Mr. Premier, I'm curious to know how will the Innu Nation continue to be engaged throughout the process as these mega projects are planned?
Well, we're quite grateful to have the partnership with the Innu Nation. We have done some incredible work together over the last few years, but first, let me credit the Innu Nation of having the courage and the foresight to construct a real, solid, and appropriate agreement when it comes to the New Dawn and the Upper Churchill redress. So, we have committed to the Grand Chief and to the leadership that we will continue the dialogue that we have had to ensure that not only is their interest protected and respected, but that when there is other opportunities to partner, whether it be transmission lines or new turbines, that we certainly are welcoming and wanting to have that conversation. So that pretty much answers that. But we're very, very happy to have that ongoing dialogue and constructive.
Reporters heard today that there will be, at the peak, 5,000 workers needed to get these projects finished. What is the plan for developing a pipeline to make sure there are skilled people up there and available to do those jobs?
That's a great question. So first of all, I want to make sure everyone understands that these jobs will flow, especially when it comes to Gull Island and the EA that has been laid out in a very prescriptive manner for Gull Island, that they will go to Innu first, Labrador second, and Newfoundland third, and then to the rest of Canada. It is our job now to continue to grow the pipeline for those skilled trades and engineers and others who are going to be required to design and build these projects, so that we can fully reap the indirect benefits to the people of this province. I have no question that there's a generation of teenagers who will have plenty of work to do.
Prochaine question.
Oui, bonjour, Marco Belair-Cirino du Devoir. Monsieur le Premier ministre Legault, votre homologue Terre-Neuve a mentionné que l'entente sera soumise à l'Assemblée législative ici de Terre-Neuve et Labrador. Est-ce que l'Assemblée nationale du Québec pourra aussi examiner le texte de l'entente et être appelée à voter avant que vous officialisez la signature du Québec?
Oui, ça va être examiné, puis ça va être discuté, puis on va être très transparent. Comme vous savez, on a un gouvernement majoritaire, ça peut aider.
Donc, on connaît déjà...
Mais on va... Non, mais on va quand même là, être transparent. C'est une entente là, de centaines de milliards. Donc, oui, il faut être transparent, puis on va l'être.
On a possiblement réglé un dossier litigieux historique entre Québec et Terre-Neuve et Labrador. Qu'en est-il de la frontière? Est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, le Québec et Terre-Neuve s'entendent sur le tracé précis de la frontière entre les deux provinces?
On n'a pas eu de discussion là-dessus, là, puis c'est pas un sujet pour aujourd'hui.
OK.
Although it's not a subject today, it's not a subject ever.
OK.
Prochaine question,
I just
s'il vous
have a
plaît.
question for you, Premier Furey. When you woke up this morning, did you say to yourself, it's payback time?
No, not at all. I think that the past is the past, but the future is ours to write. And if...
Next question.
Juanita Mercer with the Telegram. In terms of risk to Newfoundland and Labrador, there is a clause in the MOU that, in simple terms, says that Newfoundland and Labrador has to enable the new projects and has to do everything it can to ensure the projects go ahead. If the province is shown to not do that, then the power the province thought it would have access to will be capped. Premier Furey, how concerned are you about this? And Premier Legault, how important was that clause for Quebec and why?
So it's important to recognize that that clause is important security for both sides. If for some reason, for example, market forces change, Quebec decides that this is not indeed the lowest cost option, and they decide to pull out of this agreement, equally that applies for us. So if they pull out, then we still have access to that deemed power from Churchill Falls 1. So it is not necessarily, as you described, just a unilateral protection mechanism. It is protection bilaterally should forces change. There are, as you can imagine, 3 different scenarios. One is it's within our control, one is it's within Quebec's control, and one is it's just beyond anybody's control. We have agreed to own what we own and consequently want to be appropriately incentivized from Newfoundland and Labrador's perspective, but equally from Quebec's. And so we are confident that we will not hold this up. It's not only in the best interest of the treasury of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's in the best interest of the economy of Newfoundland and Labrador and the workers of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, the deal makes sense, partially because of Gull Island and the upgrade of Churchill Falls. So we wanted to put some incentives to make sure that these two projects will be done. That's it. And I'm confident that it will all be done.
But just to be clear, taken out of context, one line of an MOU, the new Churchill Falls PPA is non-conditional.
Premier Furey, do you expect the debate in January to result in any changes to the resulting agreements yet to be signed? And for both premiers, how open are you to making any changes that people might suggest?
This has been 4 years of tough negotiations. The language has been, we have sweated over it, we have debated it, we have screamed at each other about it. The language is the language, but this is an MOU, and I would commit to bring the definitive agreements back to the House of Assembly, to the People's House as well.
Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour. Patrice Bergeron, la presse canadienne. Monsieur Legault, je ne vous suis pas sur le 200 milliards. Comment vous le ventilez au juste, le 200 milliards, que ça pourrait rapporter au Québec? Là?
Bien, on dit, au total, ça nous coûte 6 cents du kilowatt-heure, toute l'entente, là, incluant le rehaussement de Churchill Falls et Gull Island. Puis nos alternatives, disons, de construire d'autres barrages au Québec, bien, on parle de coûts entre 13 et 15 cents. Je pense que c'est ça, entre 13 et 16 cents. Et donc, bien, c'est la différence entre les deux. C'est de dire, nous, on a une économie, parce que si on ne fait pas cette transaction-là, on va être obligé de faire plus de barrages au Québec qui vont coûter beaucoup plus cher, par exemple, que le renouvellement de Churchill Falls, l'agrandissement, puis Gull Island.
Et par ailleurs, les Inuits Maliotenam, ou Maliotenam, je crois, avaient déposé une poursuite concernant Churchill Falls. Est-ce que ça sera dans la balance quand vous allez négocier? Comment ça pourrait vous coûter pour les Inuits, par exemple, ce que vous avez comme projet que vous voulez faire passer? Là?
Bien, on a des discussions là, avec Mike McKenzie puis avec les Inuits. Puis je vous dirais, ça va bien. Je suis confiant là, parce qu'on regarde des enjeux pas mal plus gros que cette poursuite-là.
Yes. Next question.
Hi there, Richard Duggan here with VOCM News. So Quebec will be paying $3.5 billion to develop these other mega projects. When does that money flow, and is that contingent on anything?
So the first 1.3, give or take, a billion will flow immediately on retro to January 1st, 2025. And it will be reserved. We will treat it responsibly, ensure that we recognize that it needs to be used for potential future equity raise. The rest of that will be paid at the appropriate time with respect to the equity calls in the projects.
And just following up on the question that was asked earlier about the Innu Nation, can you speak more about what was done in the lead up to this announcement to rectify some of the concerns that they were bringing forward?
Sure, and over multiple Indigenous groups, but in particular the special relationship that the Innu have with the river. The Grand Chief and I, and Peter and I have developed significant relationship, recognizing, and I've said it to them, it was not my intent in any way, shape, or form to cause any issues with rate mitigation. But I had learned from that moment, as good as it was for the province, it was not perceived to be good for the Innu Nation, and consequently we've been striving to work together to redevelop that social relationship, but also ensure that it has economic reconciliation in the forefront. And I believe today is not just a symbol of that economic reconciliation, it is indeed a definitive action that respects the rights as dictated in the New Dawn and the redress of the Innu to the Churchill River.
Next question.
Premier Furey, the draft agreement over Churchill Falls about 20 years ago, Newfoundland and Labrador wanted 100% equity in Gull Island then today we're moving forward with Hydro-Quebec and Newfoundland Hydro shared equity. Is that something that was politically possible due to the negative experience of Muskrat Falls?
Look, you have to look forward. You have to learn from the mistakes and lessons, not all mistakes, of the past. And when we took consideration of the whole package, understanding that our equity position would, when you include the transmission lines, would essentially be equivalent. As long as we didn't repeat the mistake then therefore of Churchill 1, then that opened a value space for Newfoundland and Labrador, but equally for Quebec, in which if we have a respectful relationship in which there is profits to be made for Newfoundland and Labrador, then short of holding on to the antiquated notion of fighting for the sake of fighting, why wouldn't we entertain that? Especially when you look at Muskrat Falls, as you suggest, 900 megawatts. This is 2,200 megawatts. There's going to be much greater debt associated with it. It would be a much larger risk than the Treasury or potentially even the society more broadly in Newfoundland and Labrador would tolerate.
I've heard a deal like this described as a nation-building opportunity for the Prime Minister. There's no federal representation here today. Given the high capital costs, are you looking for some help or opportunity to work with Ottawa in the future on this?
Look, it's too early to suggest how we're going to raise the funds and what and how and who we may try to leverage. But that said, Ottawa was not particularly silent in our strategy of how we got here. It was important for me after becoming Premier to recognize that there could be a potential, given the relationship, to do something with Churchill Falls, to ensure that rate mitigation was dealt with, and it was dealt with in a way that didn't see rates double in Newfoundland and Labrador, because that would have put us in a significantly different negotiating position when it comes to this current round of negotiations. So the federal government, while maybe once removed, had an important role to play with respect to rate mitigation, and that allowed us to position ourselves appropriately as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians at this table, not in a position of weakness, but in a position of equivalence. That said, those discussions about how we finance this moving forward, we'd certainly be open to having discussions, I think, with whatever entity made the most sense financially.
Next question.
Just a quick question on rate mitigation. The Innu Nation had previously said that if a deal hadn't been struck on rate mitigation in Muskrat Falls, that any new construction would be blocked, or that they would threaten any new construction. How is that? Has that issue gone away? Can you explain what has happened to that?
Yeah, no problem. So as you may be aware, we had the good fortune to travel to Natwashish and to meet with the Innu Nation, specifically as it pertains to rate mitigation, and the Grand Chief and I and the Attorney General for Newfoundland and Labrador went and reached an agreement with respect to rate mitigation and how it was perceived to impact their future and current benefits.
And what is that agreement?
That agreement is that agreement is theirs with their knowledge and for them to share.
Has there been a change to the New Dawn agreements that allows this to happen?
No, this was specific to rate mitigation.
Thank you very much. I think this concludes the Q&A session and the press conference. Please remain seated. I now invite the dignitaries in front of the stage for the official photos. Les dignitaires sont invités au devant de la scène pour la photo officielle. Merci beaucoup à tous. Thank you very much, everyone.